starts now! Hi guys, it's Nick from Kicking Goals and welcome to another video. And in today's video I'm going to do my round 2 footy tips and I'm going to review my round 1 footy tips as well. So let's just get underway. And now here's the leader of the Footy Tipping Comp. So for round 1 I got 8 out of 9 in my footy tips. And the one I got wrong was, unfortunately, that Carlton didn't get up and Carlton lost to Richmond. I would have got the Carlton one right as well, but it didn't happen. So that's why I got 8 out of 9. Now I'm going to show Mark and Goal of the Week. The Mark of the Week is going to go to Ben King.
Humphrey. Crowd didn't think that was 15. Now he loads up long. King's got the seeds! Ben King taking to the sky!
Early contender. Yeah.
And the Goal of the Week will go to Ben Long.
Anderson, tough to combat. Releases Rowell from 50. Stings it in. Long, almost perfection out of the centre for the Suns. Long and Humphrey have to go after it again. Close to the line. Long just threw it on the boot. It's wafting. It's drifting. It's home!
So now I'm going to do my round 2 footy tips and big calls. And the first match is between Carlton and Hawthorn on the Thursday night at the MCG. Carlton are coming off a 13-point loss against Richmond. They were up by 41 points at some stage and they choked big time. I don't know what happened there, but all Richmond's youngsters stepped up big time and they wanted to win more. We could tell that they wanted it more. They were hungry for the win and they were impressive in the second half. Hawthorn, they had a good win over the Bombers. They're 2-0. They're the premiership favourites at the moment, I reckon. And they're looking good at the moment. So I'm going to tip Hawthorn to win by 23 points with my big call that Will Day to get 35 or more disposals. So the second match is between the Western Bulldogs and Collingwood on the Friday night at the MCG. The Western Bulldogs had a gutsy 16-point win over North Melbourne, considering they had all their good players out. Collingwood had a 91-point win over Port Adelaide. So both teams were winners last week. For Collingwood, Dan Houston had his first game in Collingwood colours and his first game against his former club. And Tim Memory, he kicked 4 goals. He was good. Mychek and Elliott were good with 3 goals each as well. Still Sidebottom had a great game with 31 touches and a goal, considering he's getting old now. And I don't know why Scott Pendlebury was the sub, but when he came on, he had a field day. The Dacos brothers are doing Dacos things. Yeah, I think this will be an easy tip. Collingwood should win this easy. I'm going to tip Collingwood to win by 35 points, and my big call that the Dacos brothers will combine with 75 plus disposals. So the third match of the week is between Essendon and Adelaide at the MCG also. So the first 3 matches of the weekend are all going to be at the MCG. Can you believe it? Essendon, well, they've started their season off with a bad loss. Well, it wasn't a surprise because Hawthorn are a really good side at the moment. And Adelaide, well, they had a comfortable win over St Kilda to start off their campaign. Yeah, but Adelaide had some good players during that game, as in Fogarty, Phil, Rankin, just to name a few. And Adelaide, they're looking good earlier this year. You know, they've got a really healthy list. I think they've got the healthiest list heading into the season so far. And who knows, the Crows might be a half-decent side this year. So the Crows, they don't have a good record at the MCG, but they could do all right this year. And I am going to tip them they should go 2-0, and I'm going to tip them to win by 47 points. And my big call is the Crows to lead for the whole entire game. So the fourth match is between Port Adelaide and Richmond at the Adelaide Oval. Port Adelaide had a disappointing 91-point loss to Collingwood. They'll be missing Dan Houston because he played well against them on the weekend. And Port Adelaide are missing a few good players out for injury. And Richmond, well, they had a famous victory over my beloved Blues, which was a shock, but we don't talk about that match. Yeah, but Sam Layla did impress me though, because he had a really good debut for Richmond, and all the youngsters were everywhere for Richmond. But I'm not sure if I'll go 2-0 Richmond. I reckon Port will be keen to bounce back, and I reckon Port might win this by 67 points, with my big call at Port Adelaide to have 10 or more separate goal scorers. Now, match number 5 is between St Kilda and Geelong at Marvel Stadium. St Kilda had a tough loss on the road against Adelaide last week. They have some injuries which don't help. And with Geelong, well, they had a big win over Fremantle. Bailey Smith had a great first game in Geelong colours with his 32 touches and a goal. I reckon he'll get the free votes for the Brownlow. And Jeremy Cameron had a quiet first half, but then he came out in the second half and kicked 4 goals, and Graham Myers and Henry and Tyson Stengel all kicked 3 apiece. You know, since Hawkins has retired, they've just been outstoppable, and they don't need him anymore. So Geelong, they really should go 2-0, and I'm going to tip them to win by 36 points, with my big call that Geelong will trail at half time, but they'll still win in the end. Next match is between the Brisbane Lions versus West Coast. Brisbane had a 4-point win over Sydney in the grand final rematch at the SCG. It was a close game. Brisbane had a few players out with injury, but they should gain Charlie Cameron back this week, since he was laid out last week with calf tightness, but he should be right to go this week. Who knows, he could kick a bag of 6 goals or 7 maybe. And they've got a good midfield in Lachie Neale and Will Ashcroft. And Levi Ashcroft had a great first game for Brisbane as well. So we'll see how he goes again this week. And West Coast, well, they had a terrible loss on the weekend over the Gold Coast. Harley Reid didn't do much. Tim Kelly was quiet, and yeah, I can't really name any good players for West Coast. Like Matt Owies was quiet. He only had the 1 goal with his 11 disposals. Liam Baker and Jack Graham, they both did all right, but not good enough to get the win. So this is a really easy tip. Since Brisbane are the reigning premiers, I'm going to tip Brisbane to win by a whopping 125 points, with my big call that the Lions to score over 180 points. So the second last match of the week is between North Melbourne and Melbourne. North Melbourne had a unlucky 16-point loss over the Western Bulldogs. They did a good effort to not get smashed and kept up with the Bulldogs most of the game. And Melbourne, they were unlucky to lose by 3 points last week against GWS after Lachlan Keefe kicked that winning goal for GWS. So that was unfortunate for Melbourne. But they should be getting Stephen May back from injury this week, Melbourne. You know, Gordon wasn't at his best, but Petrarca and Oliver played all right, and I didn't watch the match, but I did watch the last 2 minutes on YouTube on my phone of the match, and yeah, I could see that Melbourne was struggling. So Melbourne will be lucky to win this game. I am going to tip them, but only just. I'm going to tip Melbourne to win by 8 points with my big call, that North Melbourne lead for most of the game, but still lose in the end. And the final match of the week is between Fremantle and Sydney at Optus Stadium. Both teams were losers on the weekend. Fremantle had a tough loss against Geelong at GMHBA Stadium. But their highlight of the game was Murphy Reid, the first gamer. He kicked 4 goals. 4 goals in a row, can you believe it? He got them back within 21 points at 3/4 time. And I was like, surely they can't come back from 60 points down, Fremantle. It would be one of the craziest comebacks in AFL, VFL history, but it wasn't to be because Geelong kicked 10 goals in the last quarter to get away, which I had a feeling that it would happen. And Sydney, well, they've started their season off 0-2 because they just lost to Brisbane. They could have won that game. They started off pretty well. They were up by 27 points at one stage, and yeah, I can't believe they blew that lead, and they really should have won that game. But yeah, Dean Cox has got some responding to do if he wants to keep his spot, since he replaced John Longmire. So both teams are winless so far, but it can only be one winner, and I'm going to tip Sydney this week by 18 points, and my big call that Tom Papley will kick 4 more goals. So thank you all for watching this, everyone. Please like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video. Catch ya.